Sex and the City debuted June 6, 1998 on HBO. It wasn't just a TV show, it was a cultural phenomenon that redefined the way that we see New York City, cocktails, friendships, and shopping. For 6 years, HBO sat on a gold mine. They had the characters, the catchphrases, and the fashion. But according to my forensic audit of their timeline, and I tracked down every trademark they filed in a span of 13 years, HBO completely fumbled the bag. This is the beginning of my 3-part series in which we take a deep dive into HBO's moves for the past 25 years and try to uncover how the cable juggernaut that creates these amazing television masterpieces completely misunderstands the marketing arm. And it begins in 1999 with season 2 of Sex and the City.
I'm on Sex and the City. What's up, Miranda?
In the beginning, Sex and the City was an underdog show. Nobody had much faith in it, including HBO. They were so uninterested, they didn't even trademark the show's name until they were in season 2.
Suddenly, I felt like I was wearing patchouli in a room full of Chanel.
And they wait until 2001 before they start trademarking basic merch like tote bags, drinkware, and t-shirts. Sex and the City would have been the easiest show to market. Shoes, cocktails, and yes, perfume. Why the delay? I think the answer is prestige. HBO viewed themselves as a premium cable network, not a retail merchandiser. They were too good to market their shows, and their shows were too good to market. They didn't want to cheapen their brand. Meanwhile, the actual audience was buying everything they could to feel closer to Carrie Bradshaw and the girls.
And then we're doing the Sex and the City walking tour.
But Dynasty, another prestige soap about wealthy women, proved you could monetize without cheapening. Spelling Television sold Dynasty fragrances at Bloomingdale's. Fans rioted for a piece of that merch, and the brand stayed premium. I covered the full Dynasty story in a previous video, and I'll have a link in the description if you want the details. My point is, HBO already had the roadmap and they didn't use it. By the time Sex and the City ended in 2004, they missed the easiest home run in licensing history. HBO finally woke up in 2006 and they did file a trademark for fragrance, only to release a travel bath set. This doesn't even look like anything the show's characters or actors would ever use. It's cheap. This is junk. And then in 2007, HBO makes a move and files a trademark for Carrie's catchphrase, "Hello, lover." It seems like a lock. It's an iconic phrase. And it was abandoned. This will be a recurring theme for HBO, as we'll see through this series. Now here's where it gets really crazy. In 2007, the market was being flooded with fakes. It was a counterfeit explosion. The counterfeiters keep filing trademark applications and getting smacked down by HBO's trademark, but it doesn't matter. They're making and selling fakes labeled as Sex in the City, and people are buying it. 2008, the movie debuts and demand is at an all-time high. HBO is struggling. By now, the fakes have fully saturated the market, and HBO has another problem on their hands: Sarah Jessica Parker. See, SJP launched Lovely, the first in her own fragrance line, not affiliated with Sex and the City, back in 2005. It was a massive hit. By 2008, she'd already released 4 more perfumes, and by 2011, in the time of the sequel, she had 10 fragrances. So here's the problem. Sarah Jessica Parker was so intrinsically linked to the character of Carrie Bradshaw that any official Carrie fragrance would be competing with SJP's own brand. You see, in order for HBO to use Carrie's likeness in any marketing, SJP would have to sign approval rights. And why would she do that to compete with her own brand? Now let me show you a visual because this is getting a little confusing and there's a lot to unpack here. So 1998, show debuts. 1999, HBO gets around to trademarking the name. 2001, HBO begins trademarking merch. I'm sure by this point in the timeline, Canal Street and other counterfeiters are making a mint off of fake Sex in the City merch. So, 2004, the show ends. 2005, Sarah Jessica Parker launches Lovely and her own perfume line. 2006, HBO launches the bath kit. 2007, counterfeiters go bananas filing trademarks for Sex in the City. And then 2008, we have the movie. Now HBO files for more trademark applications for slot machines, dart boards, and random merch, including some weird grandma slipper shoes. It seems like they've just given up at this point. Fast forward to 2011, the Sex and the City sequel premieres. The companies supplying the fakes are just printing cash. And yet, HBO partners with a company called JTG Trading, and they apply for 7 fragrance trademarks. The problem remains they can't use the character names, so they opt for more generic Sex in the City Sunrise, Sex in the City Sunset, etc. Now, this is the most damning piece of evidence. In 2011, License Global, which is the trade publication for licensing deals, announces the JTG and HBO partnership, and they call it Sex in the City. Nobody caught this? Not JTG, not HBO, not License Global, whose literal job it is to cover these deals. And when I last checked, it was still up today. Nobody cared enough to fix it. And that tells you everything about how seriously HBO took this launch. In 2012, the Coast Guard seized $45 million worth of counterfeit Sex in the City fragrance. And according to their reports, 90% of all counterfeit perfumes that year were Sex in the City fakes. Let me repeat, 90% of all fake perfume in the US, seized in the US, I should say, were Sex in the City fakes. That's not just a fumble, that's HBO losing an entire market to criminals. And yet, a total of 5 fragrances are released through their partnership with JTG from 2011 to 2013. None of the trademark applications are ever registered, and none of the perfumes make an impression on the market. So back to our timeline, we have the 2011 sequel, the JTG partnership, and the launch of some official perfumes, as well as a trademark for cookies. I'll touch on that in a minute. And then we have the Coast Guard seizure. It's a mess. So what happened? Well, regardless of the seizure, the market was fully saturated and the brand had been diluted by these cheap dupe brands. Additionally, Sarah Jessica Parker had a massively successful fragrance line on her own, and HBO did themselves no favors by creating the most boring, basic fragrance line for a colorful, vibrant show. The bottles are basic, the names are generic, and they get lost in the shuffle among the counterfeits. This isn't what the fans wanted. The fans wanted luxury and opulence, and instead, we got bottles that look like they belong on the rack of a TJ Maxx. I tracked down a bottle of Sex and the City by Night. It took me a minute to find this, not because it's rare or valuable, but because nobody even knew about these. They sold so poorly that even vintage collectors don't have them in their collection. I found way more Sex in the City bottles than the real ones. Let's take a look at the bottle. So this is what HBO launched after 13 years of planning. I am already underwhelmed. But what matters is the juice. Let's see if this is an overlooked gem or just as forgettable as everything else. And as usual, we go right on skin. So when I do these fragrance reviews, I'm not reviewing the fragrance based on the olfactive art of perfumery. There are millions of fragrance creators out there for that. I'm here to review them as an extension of the IP. I'm here to analyze how they relate to the marketing and the original product. And I can say that this perfume sadly misses the mark entirely. It's just unremarkable. It's just a basic fruity floral slop. It's called Sex in the City by Night. I would assume that meant like a date night fragrance or something I'd wear out for a night out on the town with the girls. I was genuinely hoping that this would knock my socks off. It's just, I've already forgotten it. It's so boring.
Painful and unnecessary.
I'm having a hard time coming up with descriptors for how unremarkable this actually is. I think I'd rather have gotten the granny slippers. HBO made many mistakes with Sex in the City. They were too slow, they resisted marketing, and when they finally did market, they got caught up marketing weird things like trading cards and cookies. Yes, cookies. And that application did get registered, while the fragrances got abandoned. They did not understand their core demographic.
I haven't even done the Sex in the City tour.
Next time, we're going to take a look at True Blood, a show where HBO actually made it 80% of the way to success and then fumbled it in the last 20%. That might be even more tragic than Sex in the City. See you then. Bye.